I'm going to open the meeting at 6:30. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Did everybody have a chance to go to the Dropbox and review the minutes?
Yep.
Any discussion on the minutes?
I have one correction, and I don't
Okay.
have them in front of me, but in the first paragraph, it was mad instead of made. Yeah, right here.
Okay.
Just a small spelling error.
Yep. All right, so that's just adding the E after the end of mad. Anything else? Anybody got anything else that they want to address? All right, there being no other additions, corrections, or whatever, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion, and I have a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Chair votes yes, that is unanimous.
No, one abstention, sorry.
Oh, I'm.
I wasn't there.
I didn't think to ask, okay.
That's okay.
All right, so we got 5 yeses, 1 abstention. No no's, okay. And Jacqueline, I'll give you this so that you'll know what she wanted to correct.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have, in addition to our agenda, the fire department has requested, the chief has requested a funds transfer. If you want to give us a quick summary of your needs.
So, back at October town meeting, we got funded for a tanker truck that we were speccing at the time. Between speccing the vehicle and putting out to bid, price increases occurred across the board, and in many cases twice in the industry. So when we only got one bid back.
Is that because there's only one company that makes these kinds of tanker trucks?
No, it's because the other companies knew they couldn't even come close to what we were looking for. And that, meaning they were gonna be probably upwards of $100,000 more. So they didn't even submit a bid. So the bid came back, and that's why I'm in front of you now, higher than expected. And I sent you the letter I got from the manufacturer stating that they've had 2 increases in pricing since October, upwards of 12.5%. So that's why we're coming back looking for more money.
What makes the final, what will the final cost be?
The final cost will be approximately $450,000.
Okay. So what we have before us is a request for $30,000 to make up the difference between what the town meeting voted and what the chief needs to be able to put this down. And this has to be done within the next month or so, otherwise.
Well, the proposal we got is only good for, I think it was 40 days.
Right, which means we don't have enough time to wait until the next town meeting to ask
45
everybody.
days is, yeah, the bid's good for 45 days.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And I apologize to you, Lane Chief. Is there any way that a down deposit would extend that timing?
That's a question I don't have the answer to. I can certainly find out. Typically, what we do in order to get the best prices, we pay everything up front. Because that allows them to provide us some incentives. And with that payment up front, they deduct, it says $53.82 from the price if the chassis payment of $201,000 plus is received 15 days after the bid, so.
You're just looking, Jay, for a way to not do this until the town meeting?
No.
Oh.
If things didn't go his way, I'm trying to give him options.
Yeah.
Options are, we come back in looking for probably upwards of $500,000 for a new tanker.
Right.
I have a question,
Go ahead.
Chief. So, once you lock in on that contract, they're gonna honor the price?
Yeah.
Even if prices go up?
Yep,
All right,
once,
all
yeah,
right. Because they're gonna go up.
exactly.
And-
Because
and-
the build-out is over a year,
Yeah.
so within that time frame, I'm sure there's going to be
There's going
price
to be price
increases.
increases, and
Yeah.
I'm going through the same thing. I'm trying to order a delivery truck. If you don't sign the papers within the next 30 days, 8% okay?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then it puts me out until next April before I would even see the truck. So
And that's
I
what
know
we're
what the
looking
chief
at
is
now.
faced here
Yeah.
with.
Right.
So there's our issue. We have $150,000 in our transfer fund right now. Nobody has come up to us, all right, this year. We get to replenish that at the town meeting in May. And so this is not typical of the kind of request that we accept. It's supposed to be for unexpected, although I suppose this is as unexpected as you could get, okay? But more of emergency type, kind of stuff. But I'm of the mind that we fund it this way. This is the cleanest, easiest way, and gets the chief to be able to order that truck and the rest of it. So, any other discussion? Any further discussions or questions of the chief before we?
Mr. Chair, can you just clarify for me that gets replenished? So whatever's remaining in there at the end of the fiscal year,
So
and
what
then
happens
there's an
is
addition?
when we present the budget to the town.
Yep.
At the May town meeting, there is $150,000 in the transfer fund. So what we don't spend goes back to the town.
Okay.
Well, I suppose it's semantics, or they just replenish whatever we spent during the course. That's how we
Understood.
get the 150.
Thank you for clarifying.
Anything else?
No comment. My only concern is the precedent. Otherwise, I think that it is an emergency transfer. I do think that it applies, and I would endorse it. And for whatever it's worth, we have signed larger legal fund transfers. And this is a much better use of money.
Exactly. That's right, Jay, you're right. All right, there being no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to accept the reserve fund transfer as requested by the fire department.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Chair votes yes, that's unanimous. Go get your truck, chief.
Thank you very much. I just have information from the last meeting. Somebody requested information about the mobile integrated health plan that we were looking to institute. So I put together a packet. There's 5 of them here, if more are needed. It just gives you a breakdown of what the program's all about. There's the state's regulations regarding the program. There's a couple of articles regarding where successes for this program have taken place in other parts of the country, and there's also an email from me and a chief in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, who instituted a program down there that's very interesting, so I've been communicating with him, just to give you more information on
Appreciate it. Thank
that
you, Chief.
program.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So if you could give one of those to Jacqueline so that she can include it.
I know.
Documents like this, now, we don't typically, and that's what I was wondering, should we be adding these things to minutes?
I will. So when I scan them into the website, we'll add them in.
Okay,
We're just a little behind uploading them.
yeah, that's good.
Jason, there is a packet floating around up there, budget stuff maybe somewhere.
That would be awesome.
That's for, yeah.
Oh, are we supposed to sign that, or are we good?
Yeah, each one of us, so what happens on a transfer like this, we each sign it once we approve. Okay? So that the auditors or whoever knows that, okay, they've got, in addition to the minutes, they've got approved. All right, now we come into department budget meetings, and I apologize, we're already 15 minutes behind, and we just started the meeting, okay? But, library, who's here from the library, Stephanie?
Yeah, Karen will be coming up. She's right around the corner then.
I think that's Jason Julian.
Yeah.
And you should all have a copy of the library budget in your packet.
You have the updated one? Yes. I gave the one that I, oh, yep, perfect. Andrew, I gave him the narrative too. Oh, thank you so much. And your capital. Oh, great. He's on the ball, that one.
Yes.
So just so everyone, I don't know if when everyone looked at budgets, the ones in the packet are updated, the clerical union dissolved last Monday. So any of the departments that had a clerical member in it, I went and updated to their current rate as of now, so.
Oh, okay,
And it
so that makes
changed the
this-
library budget to their, to to Tammy, their Tammy amount adjusted too, so Karen updated. So the ones that are in your packet might be a little bit different than what was in the Dropbox.
Okay, so let me then open your packet up versus my packet. Okay,
Hello.
hello again.
You didn't see one? I brought one from home, I didn't see one in my packet.
I have a spare
Okay.
one. I think I put 7 of them up there.
We have the packets, it was just missing the library.
Oh, okay. Does anyone else need one? Okay. This is hot off the press.
Okay.
I guess I should start by introducing myself because I'm brand new.
Yes, if you would, please.
I'm Karen Wall, the library director. I started technically in October, but for all intents and purposes, November 1st. And this was my first order of business as soon as I walked in the door, since I put it before my board, before I put it forth to the finance committee. So one of the things that I did was I went through all of the line items from my predecessor's previous year's budgets, and I really, okay, so the whole first part is salary, and I'm not sure if we really need to go through that because that's dictated, that will be changed depending on COLAs and so on and so forth. So these are the current rates, correct? Correct. Yeah. Do you have any questions on the salary portion of it? Okay. So moving down to the services and supplies area, this is the area that I really went through with a fine-tooth comb. You'll see that the very top line says library materials, and it says state mandated minimum 60% of the TAMI, that's total allocated municipal income. So that's a little bit of a moving target, you know, when the COLAs get, if we get COLAs, then that number will change, it'll get recalculated, that's a state law. So that has been recalculated for this budget. And then, of course, I reallocate that into the different areas of materials for the library. And then on the next page, starting with the supplies, I went through every one of these line items, and I looked at the history, and I looked at where we were in our current budget, and I actually, you know, I added in 3%, which I thought was fair because materials, things are going up. We're just finding that things are costing more money now. But I tried to be prudent about it. And, you know, if I could hold it flat, then I held it flat. The one area that, out of this whole thing, beginning with building and kind of going down, a lot of those are service contracts, and I did contact all of the vendors. I asked them what to expect for increases, so on and so forth. So these are pretty legitimate numbers. The one area that I wanted to talk about this evening is the building repairs line. That's a significant increase. It was $10,000, and I knew as soon as I walked in the door that it was insufficient. I've managed a lot of library buildings in my day. And so what I did was I went back through the past 3 or 4 years, and we, of course, have kept the library building in good repair, but when we run out of money in the allocated budget, we take it out of what's called state aid, which is something we receive from the state. The amount varies every year, but it's really intended for things like programming. We don't have a programming line item in our budget, and that's pretty common in a lot of municipal library budgets. So the state aid is intended to supplement the allocated municipal budget for things like programming and enhancements and enrichments. So if we, you know, saw a need for a particular database, that's another thing that is not covered in our budget, and those can be expensive. So the state kicks in the money for that. But what we've done over the past several years is kind of steal out of that pot of money to repair the building. And what I'm asking is that we put enough money in this line item to actually repair the building, keep it in good repair, so that I can use that money for what it's intended for.
I'm assuming these are small type repairs, window reglazing, holes in the wall from kids running, these are not big structural type repairs.
Well, the window reglazing, I actually, that's one of my capital requests. And we did have, it depends on the window, I guess. In the old part of the building, it runs $10,000. So, it can be anything. It can be a small thing like plumbing. It can be, an HVAC piping repair. I've got a bill coming for $6,500 next week because we had a leak fixed, and they had to come in, and once they pulled away all the insulation, they discovered that all of the union joints were all corroded. So, it's an older building, and, you just have to keep it in good repair.
Yeah.
So
these are things that aren't on your capital
that's
request.
correct.
Right. It's
You know,
the small
that,
things.
so what I did was I did review all of the building repairs that were done over the last 4 or 5 years, and when I calculated it all out and then averaged it, it averaged $39,354 spent yearly on building repairs, so that's where I got the 40 from.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a good rationalization.
Yeah.
Good way to do it.
I am a librarian after all, come on. And I'm married to an engineer who says you can't get something just by stamping your foot, okay?
Can I quote you on that?
You can. I've been married to her for 27 years, so.
Any questions of what we've heard so far on the operating budget? Have one. We're not in the library, guys, even though people have, okay, you can speak. Right?
It's glacier than this.
It is, it's terrible. I know, it's terrible. So one thing that I did discover was that I was able to take an item out because we had a second transfer switch in, and hopefully that got reflected in the budget you have, but I did remove that because it was discovered we have one transfer switch, not two.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I really did go through every single one of these light items because I need to understand everything too. So being new, it was a good exercise for me.
Good. All right, I've got no questions.
I'll do one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned that we don't have a programming line item.
Correct.
So are the Friends actively coming up with those funds for
Well-
things like that? Or is that gone dormant again?
Normally, under normal circumstances, I will tell you where we get our sources of other funding, because I was thinking about that today, thought you might ask. Our Friends of the Library typically fund things like our Museum Pass program, and that's usually runs in the thousands. Those can be very expensive, but they're very popular with our patrons, so we want to keep that up. They also fund our summer reading program. Those are two kind of big ticket items that they fund, and primarily they would fund that out of book sale proceeds and membership drives and so forth. Unfortunately, and I wasn't here, I wasn't here during most of the, big COVID protocols, but I think that, and this happens with a lot of libraries, is that Friends can be made up of a lot of like retired people, and, sometimes, I think that the Friends kind of slipped a little bit, and maybe they need to be resuscitated a little bit. So that's one of the things on my plan of action for this coming year, is to get that membership drive out and get the Friends group more viable. So, but they do contribute to the library bottom line. The other thing is, of course, gifts and grants. We write grants. We've gotten a couple of cultural council grants. We usually get those for programming, and we use the gift money for supplying supplies for the kids, programming and things of that nature, because we don't take that out of our allocated budget as well. We do have a very small trust that we're allowed to use some of the interest, so we for instance, an item that was purchased with some of that money was a second circulation desk in the kids' room to make the flow of traffic better. So, those are things, finally, state aid, of course, is another source of income. And those are things I try to, when I think about the additional sources of funding, I like to think of it in terms, and then our allocated budget, and this is sort of the formula that I've used in any library that I've run, is sort of a needs versus a wants rationale. So, did we need another desk? No, we didn't absolutely need it, but it sure makes the room more, the flow of the room. So those are kind of things that we would not come to the town for. That's the rationale that I use. But and it's also the rationale I used when I increased the repair line, because that's not a want, that's definitely a need.
I'm used to some budgets that have a need, a want, and would be nice. And there's
wish
always something in
list.
the would be nice.
We don't even go there.
One of those. You never know who's gonna drop a whole bunch of money in our lap at any moment,
That's
right?
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are there any activities related to the charitable trust as far as raising funds? Because I know those funds could go towards building repairs.
Yes, I think I have a meeting coming up with the trust. There's not a lot of money in the trust, but
Right.
I did contact the, chair of the charitable trust, and she came in and we had a nice chat, and I pointed her in the direction of some fundraising, it was a webinar that the Mass Board of Library Commissioners was putting on. Actually, I think it's coming up tomorrow, and I think she was going to take part in it. But I said to her, I would like to, get that going, do some more fundraising for that, because that would be nice for long-term sustainability of large purchases and, again, wants.
No, yeah. Stefan?
So did you say that the charitable trust funds can be used for repairs? Because I was under the impression their bylaws say that they cannot do that, that
Yeah.
is really the responsibility of the town.
They do say that
the-
it
Yeah,
does say that in the agreement.
It's for the major things with the building, or like we
That's why we
purchased.
went to them and got the money for that second circulation desk down in the children's room.
Right,
That
I
was
don't mean-
an appropriate use of their
yeah, I don't mean
funds.
the regular repair stuff, I meant just.
You're talking about enhancements and enrichments.
Yeah,
Yeah, Hank's
Yeah, to
third
the bill.
pile, right?
yeah.
In fact, most of them actually use that exact terminology. So, but yes, that is another source of funding, and we do use it.
Good. Anything else? You all set? Thank you very much for appearing today.
Do you want to do their
Unless you
capital?
have something else.
Do you want to do their capital?
Sure, well, yeah, all right. I didn't realize I didn't see that in here.
I think I kept hers and IT separate, because those are the only two you'll have for capital.
Oh, it's over here. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was part of the package.
I actually have two requests in, and again, I did this probably 6 weeks into my tenure. So the smaller of the two is for if you look at the front of Dexter Hall, there's a set of very large windows up on the second floor, which were and are in dire need of repair, reglazing and so forth. They had the front side done, and I believe that was last year's capital request. And so I have another capital request in to have that done. On the backside. Those are actually in pretty poor condition. They're the sort of west facing, and they get beaten up by the sun and the elements a little bit more. So the glazing is literally falling out.
That's
those.
$400,000. Have you
No,
got?
That's not the,
No.
that's,
8,000.
yeah.
8,000, I'm sorry. That's a lot of windows.
No, but I'm impressed that you were like even considering that.
No, I wasn't, that's why I brought it up. But, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I
That
was looking
also
at the wrong
includes
one.
the painting of the entire structure.
Yeah, it's soup to nuts. You know, can we wait that long? I'm not sure, but depending on whether or not the repairs line gets bumped up, I may be able to, if we really have our backs against the wall, then that would be something that I would take out of the repairs line.
Okay. And just explain to me the roof and gutter project, I'm not 100%.
Oh, sure. How much time do you have? No, I'm just kidding.
No, you've got about a minute and a half, okay?
Okay, this is something that I believe the town is familiar with, has known about for quite some time. The gutters, there's the gutters on, so this is the entire, the whole enchilada, the whole building. So you've got the new part of the building and the old part of the building. The new part of the building, which is the back part, the gutters are really failing. They were done incorrectly. They needed expansion joints. They don't have them. It's dumping water basically into the inside of the building at this point. We've got someone coming to do a stopgap measure. Anyway, the gutters have all failed. It's resulted in damage to both the inside and the outside of the building, so they need to be replaced, in a nutshell.
Okay.
And it was suggested that while they were here, the roof is almost 20 years old and the shingles are flying off on a regular basis, so that's included in this. I did it sort of à la carte, so that, the first, if you look at Crocker's bid transmittal, the top part, the very first paragraph is the replacement of the gutters, and then the second part is Dexter Hall, which is the old part. In conversations with our building inspector, he relayed to me that those gutters are in poor condition, they're buckled, and so I included that. And so that's the second part. The third part, I had them just do a repair of the addition, which I don't really think is a good idea, but I put it in there anyway. And then the very last part is the replacement of the roof on the addition.
Okay.
So that's
All right.
that's how I got there.
And I bring it up because we do have the residents watching, and a lot of residents may not know about this project, so.
Yeah, and I think it's been problematic for a number of years.
And it doesn't get better, obviously.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's raining in the building as we speak.
Yeah, okay.
But we're working on it. So those are the two capital projects. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Not a question, but welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here. I absolutely love it.
Well, good.
Despite the roof and the
Your office is dry.
That's every library building I've ever been in has issues, whether they're new or old.
Okay, good. We're all set. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your consideration. I really appreciate it.
Next, technology.
Since you're going to be,
Yeah, I know. Geriatric.
geriatrics. Oh, golly.
Shoot, I think the light's so small.
I still need, you're not gonna get the ring, you're gonna carry it.
To see these little numbers. Okay, introduce yourself to the rest of the committee here.
Good evening, Jeff Sorrell, IT Director for Town of Charlton.
Thank you, Joe.
Where do you want to start? Budget, COVID,
Let's start,
Opera.
let's start with the budget. All right. You go right from the top, from wages on down.
All right, I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. Cell phone stipend, so you oversee all the cell phones in
Nope.
No.
So there's some line
Okay.
items, there's some line items in his budget that, like Andrew and I take care of, but they're technically technology, so we loop them all under one budget.
Okay.
So,
Instead of putting them separately in everyone's budget, it's in one area, so when we pay it, it's at a one line item, so we can just see yearly costs.
Okay.
So basically, the budget existed before the department or the personnel were here. So as we go through this, I'll explain to you what's what, but if you look at the overall number, it's like, wow, there's a lot of money in that budget. A third of it isn't mine.
Okay. Well, technically it is, though.
Well,
Yeah,
that's,
technically.
well, we'll see.
Okay, Joe. All right, so that's cell phones. Then you've got, and I assume, yeah, you've got a lot of licenses that you've got to,
Well, that was all grouped together at one point. This year, I broke it out so you can line item see everything I actually pay for, everything I expense on the town's behalf and that I use. So if you'll notice, the first section, excuse me, print's small, I'm getting old. First section, 89,300. That whole first section, the whole first block, town license and software, that's under the heading town license software, nothing to do with me. I don't buy it, I didn't sign for it, I don't install it, I don't configure it, I don't support it, I don't use it. Nothing to do with me. It was there when I got
what are
hired.
you doing here?
So those are the licenses like Vadar, that's our accounting software. I think town clerk's got some licensing in here.
Yeah, Hoppers.
So,
Yeah,
but
Harper's is
but I
our
can
payroll.
understand the concept of keeping it.
So that's why I wanted to separate it, because I'm not asking for money for those items if they go up, and
Right.
sometimes they do, and people kept on paying out of the license fund that I had items there, I'm like, well, why am I 4,000 short?
I got
You
you.
know, prices never go down, so the next section, 100% all me. I know those numbers, I have receipts, I have everything for those. The first section, not me.
Yeah. Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Chris.
A little bit unfair, because you said you don't own them, but have you accounted for in any of this licensing software, the annual increase? Typically there is.
Never touched it, didn't buy it, didn't sign for it, never seen the invoice.
Yeah.
So I went
Yes.
through, like the Vadar software is that's all the financial software, so we're locked in on a price on that.
Okay.
Like the Harper's software, that's our payroll software, so comes out of accounting now, so we updated that, and I believe we're contracted into most of them. The only one, but I checked with you, the town clerk software, so I don't know if that's gone, but I don't think so, I think we're locked in.
I think I told you that it's
Yeah.
not going up,
my
and if it does
dilemma.
go up, it's
Yeah, it's not
$200.
So, but we've gone through and just double checked them, so, and then
Yeah.
the bottom line, the ClearGov software, that was that software we were talking with you guys about last
Yeah.
meeting with Andrew, that him and I are working on.
Yeah, I just saw that today, so
Yeah.
it's 16,000 I didn't know about until today.
Yeah.
So the second section, did you?
Second
account
section is
for
all
any
mine.
increases? But you have increases in there, any relevant?
Yep, everything's all set, up to date, and some of them are actually paid ahead but broken out per year. So
Yep.
for example, PRTG at the bottom, I paid three-year, $1,200, so I budget $400 a year, and that's paid 3 years in advance. So yes, it's all up to date, and most of it is locked in for, it could be.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, next section is, yeah.
Next section, Charter Communications, that is town-wide internet access. That's the bill for that. Harbor Networks, my telephone system, that's our maintenance and service contract for the year. The rest of it, not mine.
Oh, everything below that?
Everything below the next two line items, not mine. $30,000 for the town phone bill. I don't pay the phone bill.
Yeah. I got you.
And actually, to be honest, the town cell phones, it says $1,000 a piece, 12 of them. I will say, I do have a town phone, so one of those is mine. Training, to be honest, no one's used that line item in 2 years because of COVID, but it's an expense that can be used to train an employee for whatever. It just can be used for anything. Various expenses is the expense for my department, IT department. Could be screwdriver set, wire strippers,
Yeah.
envelopes, scotch tape, just overall office costs. Hardware is my physical hardware that I need to buy throughout the year. Someone breaks a monitor, I have to buy another computer monitor, cables, hard drive replacements. Various, could be anything, computer hardware-wise, that needs replacement or is damaged or needs to be bought. And then the final line item is technology maintenance. That's our third-party vendor, Micronet, annual cost.
So that hardware is more individual pieces as opposed to, I know, over the last few years, we've started putting, what is it, $75,000 into
Yes, I
technology
have that
hardware.
information for
into
you.
that.
Yeah, that's.
That
that's-
over and above this,
Yes, very rarely will I make large purchases out of the hardware line item for town-wide IT equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, if we need a new something, I don't know, pick anything, a new switch, it costs $3-4 grand, yeah, it comes out of that. But as far as the town articles for capital expenses, those are the larger projects.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing the redo at PD, town-wide, when we put the sign on from the library, larger expenses like that. And if we happen to do an upgrade to core networking, that will be factored into capital, would be town-wide. But the $25,000 for hardware is, we got a new hire, have to buy another desktop,
Gotcha.
things like that.
Yep. Just for everybody's edification here, we never used to put money into technology hardware. Years ago, we had 0 line items. And it was probably, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 years ago, we put in $75,000 into the capital budget for technology, knowing that this stuff changes fast.
Yeah, I believe it happened right before I started, a year or so before I
Right.
started. So, I mean, get back to the subject we talked about before, the overall cost, $343.7. My actual cost, $208.
208, okay.
Just so you know.
Yeah. No, appreciate it. And then, anybody got any questions on the operating budget for the department? Jeff at this time? No? We'll go through your capital request here.
Sure.
And there's the $75,000 I was talking about.
So, there are multiple projects going on. Matter of fact, I have a little handout for you, just so you can see where money is going. Pass that around. I'll give one to Ashley, so you
Yeah.
can see it too.
Thank you.
There was also funds allocated to IT through CARES Act and through American Recovery Act.
Yep.
And I have those listed as well on there, as well as what future capital projects through town meeting article will be funding, what I have planned for the next couple of years. That's on this sheet as well. One of the items, the first line item, is the town phone system, the actual network. The switches that are in every building that connect the whole town phone system are coming end of life. Had an opportunity to do an upgrade a little earlier by 1 year and save 20% on cost if I put a 25% deposit down before December 31st. The overall cost of that bill is $24,450 to replace all the switches. I put a 25% deposit down on December 28th, paid for it, and it leaves a balance of $18,337. So we saved, 20% cost increase that would have happened January 1st. And that is actually being installed, and the balance will be paid July of 2022, this year. That's one project.
So when you said the telephone, the switches, not the,
Not the actual
Not the actual
phones. The
units.
phones are still gonna be able to work on the new hardware, but the switches are end of life because the company that the town originally bought the phone system from before was bought out. It was called ShoreTel. They were bought out by a company called Mitel, and Harbor Networks has to get rid of all the old ShoreTel switches that are no longer serviceable, and replace them with the Mitel. So one of the questions I asked them, well, how long is this gonna last? Because I don't wanna pay, 25 grand and say, 3 years, oh, you're going to the cloud. No. So they said, no, it's gonna be a minimum 5 to 7 years after this. We also went through an E-rate grant, which is a federal grant proposed, it's through the federal government for schools and libraries. And we applied and received it for the library across the street, our library. And that is core networking upgrades, wireless access point upgrades, and the wiring and installation of it. I haven't paid anything for that, but my chunk yet, because the work isn't done. We ordered the parts back in October, and we were supposed to receive them in March, and I found out yesterday that maybe May. And it's from major IT vendor, Cisco Systems. That's who makes the access points and the switches and and the various other items we're going to use. The library also received internet speed access boost through Charter, because that's also part of the E-rate. So it's a 3-year lock-in, so the patrons have faster Wi-Fi, locked-in rate at 600 meg download. But I'm going to be on the hook for $18,337 once, 21,710. Once the parts come in, we get the guys to go over there and wire the building to install the new access points. It'll be nice for everybody in the corner with their laptops and phones in the study rooms and everything. And Dexter Hall is also going to get it now, so there'll be Wi-Fi up there to be used, and the meeting room downstairs, which is another project I'm working on. So there'll be internet access in that downstairs meeting room, which I think is one of the biggest meeting rooms that we use in town, but there's only table and chairs. There's no internet, there's no phone, there's no any media, there's no computers, there's nothing. So that's a project I'm working on as well. Police department dispatch systems are being replaced. Those systems will be reused elsewhere within PD. For example, CSI is going to use one of those dispatch systems because they're still good, but they're doing a complete remodel at PD in the dispatch area. So while that's basically ripped apart and being rewired, we already have the systems. We're going to get new dispatch systems that give us 2 more monitors of viewing, so they can have the new camera system that's going to be up, so they can monitor around the building, which has access controls to let people in and out through doors. So dispatch system is one of those. Again, not paid for yet, but it will be around a It'll be around a $6,000 expense. And I guess the next one line down is the PD access controls and the camera system upgrade for that building. There are actually 3 systems in that building, 2 analog and 1 digital. They kind of worked, they kind of didn't. I know that when processing or having intake of a prisoner or something through the interview room, it was a disaster. We replaced everything, the jail cells, hallways, the garages, so this way that there's always video evidence along with audio now. Some of them have audio, so you have that as well. And instead of having to manually do certain tasks for that process, it's automated. This way there's no error, you don't miss something, and they record indefinitely.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what's ongoing right now. The building's been rewired, because the old analog system cameras, they ran on coax, which is like your cable TV coming into your house. Had to rip all that out and run Cat 6. So it's been a process. Kurt's been there helping rewire the access control and the doors. I'm there all the time, so it's still ongoing. So that's where, a lot of that money's going.
Yeah.
Upcoming capital projects at the bottom, starting next year, will be the transition to Windows 11. I say that with dread because it's going to be a 2-year process. When we went from 7 to 10, I caught the very tail end of life of Windows 7, and there wasn't enough time to replace these systems, and they didn't really need to be all around town. Some did. So I was able to upgrade a lot of them, most of them, for $70. New hard drive, put some more memory in, takes Windows 10, they run great. They will not run Windows 11. I went and tested every computer in town, ran the Windows health check for the Windows 11 upgrade test. They all failed. Well, a majority of them failed. I have a need for approximately 90 systems. And I'm breaking that up between 2 years that it will be used for the capital town meeting funds, because basically I can't do it all in 1 year, and I don't want to use all the funds and buy it all at once. So that will be one of the major ones. It's going to be very time consuming.
When you say average cost, $1,100, that's per the 90?
Yes. And that's now price, right now, like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's going to be in a year and a half.
if you can get chips.
Hopefully it gets better, but, I mean, on that standpoint, if the shipping situation and the chip shortage doesn't get better, I don't know how Microsoft's going to force people to end Windows 10, because no one can get systems to go to 11. But that's not my call. I just know to be compliant, ours aren't gonna work for two reasons. One, the processors are too slow, they fail the processor test, and they don't have secure boot, which Windows 10, you could do it or not do it, Windows 11 requires it. These computers don't do it, they're too old.
Okay.
Any other questions with any of this stuff? Any questions for CARES Act?
Where it says
Recovery Act?
fiber optic connection between police and fire, that's what you were talking about earlier, trying to,
Well, with the core upgrades that we're doing to PD and fire through the Recovery Act Fund, that I asked for because the new radio system is going in, so it'd be nice to upgrade the core to have even more speed between them, because there's gonna be some radio transmissions, and fire is gonna be backup dispatch if dispatch goes down. Excuse me, if dispatch goes down, we upgrade the core, we're gonna get 10 times the speed between buildings. Now, the way the town works is town hall is hub, every other building is spoke. We have fiber that runs right by PD that goes to fire already, and we're only using half of it. We're gonna splice into it, tap into it, send it to PD, so now we have a direct line to fire as well,
yeah.
for redundancy, in case there's a failure. But
You
someone
you
hits
don't
the-
mind sharing, chief?
Not at all. Radio system in town has been long overdue for an upgrade.
And the bottom one's also, like the selectmen's meeting room, I've been wanting to upgrade this room, and this is a stopgap. It works good, but it's not permanent, it's on a cart, it's where anybody can use it in any room, because there was no audio-visual teleconferencing capabilities when COVID hit really quick. And nobody could present here digitally either, so kind of made that as a stopgap, but with the last 2 years with COVID, I couldn't justify spending the money to make a great meeting room when no one can meet. So, that's on the radar, but I haven't appropriated any funds, and I've been starting to take quotes, but it's kind of lackluster, because we kind of got shut down again, now we're reopening, and so I'll revisit that in maybe in warmer weather.
Okay. What else we got? Anything else on, anybody got any questions of Jeff on technology?
I've got a question on the
Yeah.
Win 11 project. What's the age of the hardware? I mean, I totally understand the constraints, but what's the age of the hardware, and can it be repurposed for library, school?
It won't take Windows 11, it won't take it at all, so no one can use it. End of life of Windows 10, if you're gonna use it, maybe give it to your kids, so if you break it, you throw it away, but it'll be unsecure.
Win 10's not going to extended support?
The end of life is 2025. It's gonna take
Okay.
me 2 years to do it, so you'll have until then.
Gotcha.
But what happens is Microsoft shuts off all updates to that version of the
Yeah,
operating
and it
system. So
becomes, yeah.
it's a big security hole, because you wanna know what the security hole is? Look at the patches for Windows 11. Oh, it's not patched on 10, you're in.
Yeah, that makes
So you
sense.
can't really use it in anything production. Let your kids play video games on it, don't put it online.
Good. Anything else? If not, Jeff, thank you very much for
Okay.
your explanations.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You're only 20 minutes late. Sorry about that.
I'm off till Tuesday, so see you later.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
All right, next we have Board of Health, Town Clerk's Office.
Hi, Karen LaCroix, Town Clerk.
Go ahead, Karen, let's start at the top like we always do.
Okay, so I think this is the fourth year in my budget I've been asking for a department assistant, or what most town clerks call a deputy clerk, which is that third person in the office. The majority of the local town clerks do have a third person. The day-to-day operations of the office are very busy, and there isn't any downtime anymore at all. There used to be, like, had projects we want to get, had gotten to when it was quiet, it doesn't happen. So unfortunately, there's some things we want to implement, things to make certain processes easier that we haven't been able to get to. It's
I know you
difficult.
turned around my dog licenses in like 4 days.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I was shocked.
Did you
Thank
do it online?
No, I mailed it in.
okay.
I mailed it in.
It's difficult for one person to handle the office alone, and that would happen if there's two of us and one's on vacation. As it is right now, there'll be 7 weeks of vacation between the two of us, so that's 7 weeks with one person in there. So if the one person's in there gets sick, the office is closed. So there's no backup at all, which makes it pretty difficult, which it's an office that has to be open. And it really is one of the busiest offices in the town hall. And especially, not last year, but 2020, I probably worked at least 200 extra hours myself just to be able to keep things going. There's really, even this time of year when it's not election season, usually I'll come in on a Friday. Well, I came in on Saturday, you just can't get the work done just with the two. Some of the aspects of our operations that have dramatically increased the workload. An example is the state in 2020, every person who goes to the registry or any kind of state agency, those people are automatically registered to vote. So you're all registered voters, but if you go to upgrade your update your license or get a new license plate or whatever at the RMV, you come through my office. So I don't know you're not a registered voter, so I have to go from screen to screen, check all your information, check your birth date, your voter registration, and say, yep, it's a duplicate, we'll reject it. Or no, you're a new voter, and we'll process it. So there used to be maybe 3 people a day that would come through, and now it's over 20 each day. So it's time consuming for a process that, you have to do, which is only gonna get more and more.
And it can't be automated, I'm assuming.
No, well, town clerks would hope that, yes, could the state probably automate it and kick out those people that are duplicates? Yeah, but they haven't. So that's not us, that's them. The state also has now voted for no excuse mail-in voting. So it's not just those few people that absentee vote because they're going to be on vacation. Now, like in 2020, we did, for the presidential election alone, there were 5,000 mail-in ballots. So that's the application. We have to put that in the system. We have to log in when we mail the ballot out to you. We have to log in when we receive the ballot in, and we have to log in when the vote was cast. So that's a lot. That's for one election. So that in itself, just for the mail-in ballot type of thing, it's a lot for 2 people, and especially if one's, like I said, on vacation, or you just don't take vacations until it becomes the spring, and, it's difficult to even take any time off. So, that part of, mandates from the state increasing the workload. Other than that, dogs have increased. Everybody got dogs during COVID, so those numbers have gone up. So everything we touch has just expanded that much more. In the 12 years I've been in the office, it's crazy how much the workload has increased. You would think it would be easier with some of the things we've implemented to make things go quicker, but it's just, time consuming, unfortunately. So that's it for my ask for the extra person. And part-time hours. I don't, believe that it doesn't need to be a 40-hour.
Because you used the term before deputy or.
Yeah,
something,
deputy clerk, it's like it's a department assistant, basically.
Okay. So this isn't a 40-hour?
No.
Is that 38, is that full-time
Yeah.
equivalent?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I asked for 25, I talked to Andrew about it, I put in for 25,
Okay.
I'll take what I can get on that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, okay.
Is that a position that could be done with any of these floaters? We've talked about floaters for like 2 years. I'm not even sure if I can remember what's
We
happening.
have.
Appropriate,
Yeah.
not appropriate?
I was perfectly happy with that, 2 years ago when it went through? And, if I can't get that one person that would be in there all the time for those part-time hours, that would be great, at least a floater. We utilize the senior work-off people, which is great. They can stuff envelopes, they can do some filing that we don't ever have time for. But they're not going to learn the technology that we have. And we just need somebody that understands the office to the level if one of us isn't there, they can really, answer a call, help people out. If I can't get that one person that's in there, floater would be wonderful, but,
Well, did we not get the floater?
So it was funded, but the Board of Selectmen, I think, because COVID had hit or something, said they didn't want to fill the position, because we had funded it for half of a year. I think at that point, I think COVID had hit, so we didn't fund the position. The position was never filled. It was funded but never filled. And they had filled somebody in dispatch or something instead, so that position particularly was never filled.
My fear with the floater is there's so many offices that would need it, and because I'm so busy, I'm like, I need it. I need that person, you know,
And
all the
there's only
time.
certain offices they can cross, like, they can't, if they enter into one office for auditing purposes, they can't enter into certain offices. So like, for instance, if they were in my office, they can't be in the treasurer collector's office, because our duties cross. So for auditing purposes, they wouldn't be able to go into certain offices,
Okay.
but if they were in like town clerk or building, 'cause I know building had asked at one point, that would be fine.
Yeah,
But you have to be careful crossing your finance offices, that's
yeah,
all.
because I thought the clerk's office was one of the places we had talked that the floater would
Yeah, I
would
think
be
it was
available.
town
That,
clerk
building
and I think
inspector, and,
building,
yeah,
and that, there might have been one other office potentially.
okay, all right, but we didn't fill it, so.
It was funded and never filled, yeah.
Okay,
Question.
go ahead.
Would this assistant have the same powers that you have to swear in folks?
No,
Or-
no, so, you know, that third, the assistant, the assistant town clerk, yes, but a department assistant, no. I mean, most of the things they could do, you know, use my stamp for certain things, but they could not do oaths. And, you know, they could get, I did ask another town clerk, and they had that person get their notary, so that allows them to sign certain things, like business certificates they could do, through their notary.
Okay. Any other questions? Karen? No? No?
And the only other thing, so that's my ask. The other things are, my increases are just because of the amount of elections this year, and I did have to increase my budget on those just because every aspect
Yeah.
has gone up, like everything else, payroll, early voting hours that we now, were mandated. I think the election in September, I think, is 1 week of early voting. In November, it will be 2 weeks of early voting, which includes weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. So, you know, unfortunately, we have to do that. The postage is increased, so if you have postage on 5,000 mail-in ballots, it's a lot of money. And, you know, all those RMV people that come through, they all get letters, so that's increased. And then everything else with elections, from food to supplies to maintenance fees,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that's all I
All
got.
set? Karen, thank you
Good?
very
All right,
much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we've got Board of Health, but did I see him just,
That was,
that's what I
That was
thought.
Frank.
no, that was,
That was Frank,
Frank.
That's,
Because you're from the Council on Aging?
Yeah.
Come on up. At least we can say one group met at the time that they were assigned.
That's what this is all about.
Hi there, Elaine Mataris, Council on Aging Director, and I'm Cindy Cooper, Chairman of the Council on
Thank
Aging.
you, Elaine and Cindy.
So, we're requesting a part-time activities assistant. We have a lot of activities down there now, but I have to, like, stop what I'm doing to go down into an activity. Either, you know, I don't have an activity, or I have to do it myself, or find a volunteer, or pay someone, so it's been really challenging. I also have to work around my vacation time as well, and I've been here 22 years, so it's been, you know, I have a lot of vacation time I try to take. And I try to schedule special things around that, so, you know, and make sure somebody's here to do that. So it's really been something that I've wanted for a while.
When you
And
say part-time, we're talking about that 24-hour,
actually, I'm
Yeah.
talking about 18 hours a week. I would really like someone maybe 3
can that person also work in the town clerk's office?
The math almost works out. We're within like 2 or 3 hours here.
That's what I'm thinking, Jay, okay?
Yeah, so I would like them to just assist leading groups, helping set up, clean up, and all of that.
And I'd just like to add that the number of seniors in town is increasing, and it has been increasing for many years. When you think about the baby boom and how many people are aging in place in town, there are more and more that are requiring services, but also are interested in coming.
About how many clients, on an average, a week do you serve downstairs?
Well, our numbers have gone down because of COVID.
Well,
So
COVID notwithstanding.
without COVID, we probably served 25, 30 to 40 or 50, depending on what the meal was for the day. For weekly, though, I mean, some people will come to an activity, say a yoga class in the morning, but they won't stay for lunch. But some people will go play pool, or they'll use the sewing machines, or we have public computers as well, and they'll come for other activities that are set up, presentations and things like that.
Yeah. So as the age gets older, you're gonna see more and more, you're assuming?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And would like
Utilize
to
it.
add more things, and I just feel like I am not able to do that, because I don't have someone to help me to do that. So, in 2010 was the last census. We don't actually have a number from the census yet, but it was 2184 in 2010. Karen just told me a couple days ago, it's the senior citizen 60-plus is now 3489. So it's jumped quite a bit, and it'll just keep rising.
Yeah. And COVID hasn't hurt your clientele too bad, I hope?
Actually, when we first started, we had to close, obviously, but we added the to-go lunches, and it increased, it doubled all the lunches that we were sending out. So we stopped doing that when COVID ended, because it was not cost-effective to us to keep purchasing the to-go containers and all of that. But we continued on a Thursday, because we're only here Monday through Thursday, so they can take one home for the next day.
Yeah.
So, but the clients it's been up and down, you know. We've lost a lot of people, and some afraid to come back. And so I think it's slowly going to increase again. We hope, anyway.
Okay. Otherwise, you've got a pretty straightforward budget. I mean,
Yeah, I have a very small budget, but you can see that, you know, I'm not asking for anything else other than that at this point.
Right.
And we use a lot of the donation grants, you know, where we do grants. We use Cultural Council formula grants and things like that, so we do the best we can with what we've got.
Any questions of Eileen over your operating budgets? Nothing?
Simple.
Eileen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
If I know you were gonna be that succinct, I might have taken you first. You'll be on time. Thank you,
Have a good
Cindy.
evening.
And now we have nobody left in the room. We still got, we still got Board of Health and Board of Appeals.
There was nobody intending to be remote, right?
No, not that, let me know. Okay. We're all set for you, Frank.
How you guys doing?
Very well.
Good.
Introduce yourself to the
Frank
board.
Lombardi, the Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm here for my yearly budget and checkup. So this year, we just need 10,000 set aside in cash, all small bills unmarked.
5 or 10?
Either one's fine. So, right now, I mean, what we had in the budget last year, I think is, you know, we wouldn't ask for anything more than we asked for last year. The only, I think, thing that, and we don't know this, you know, it depends upon what we get for applications during the year, depends upon how much time the recording secretary, you know, and our expenses are. I guess it is foreseeable if there's some big planning board projects they're gonna be, coming across, we'll get variances, especially the Amazon or some of the other bigger projects, typically will ask for pretty complex variances. If it looks like it's too complex, then, we'll talk with the administrator and see if we need counsel for that. But other than that, I think everything is status quo for us.
Perfect. Yeah, how many times a year do you normally have to meet?
It depends. So, like, we had the
application.
fire station one, I think we met like 3 times on the fire station. There was a application for a variance of a treehouse for a sign. We met 3 or 4 times for that, and, if it's, sometimes it's just like, we want to add on in a garage, that's just one meeting or whatever. It really depends upon each individual
So
circumstance.
you're very project-driven.
Right, yeah, everything is like and because we issue, we might issue relief on one application, and even if they're asking for the same thing, the circumstances could be completely different and may not another, so each one is unique in our,
Yep.
when we look at it, yeah.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions for me?
No.
No, I think
Simple.
we're good.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
That's the easy one.
We're the hard ones, yeah.
Very, very simple. No capital requirements, no software that does something for you that,
So, and I think in the past, this fiscal year, we got a TV with a capability with Zoom to move around, because we weren't really sure. I don't know if, that, we need a new computer, I don't know, I usually ask the recording secretary, if we need something like that. But if, whatever we would need, I think that it's in the budget, it's well within the budget that you give us. All of our expenses on the salary part, we don't really have a huge, typically, we don't spend all the stuff for supplies and things like that. We try to keep that at a relative minimum if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So, even if we did need, a software update or, computer hardware stuff, I think that whatever is allocated in the budget usually covers that.
Mhm.
And we try not to go over that in any way.
okay, good.
Yeah.
We all set, guys? Frank, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming in. Appreciate you.
Enjoy the rest of the night. Good luck.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, and that leaves the Board of Health.
And the
Planning board's not coming?
Jean's here.
Oh, planning board at the end, that's right.
Planning board's here.
Board of Health must just not,
Huh?
maybe they forgot.
All right, so we'll say at 7:40, we'll say at
It's,
7:50.
7:36 right now.
Everybody moved up, so the planning board here at the end.
I can see if you want to be like on time to meetings, set the clock 5 minutes.
Yeah. But then when you're,
Set the clock ahead if you want to be on time to
yeah,
meetings.
Yeah, so- yeah, but then you'd be more in violation of a lot more things. and I
Yeah,
would think that
right.
There should be 5 minutes behind.
Yeah.
Okay, so that you can't start early. right? That would make sense to me.
That's how I get through my workday. I'm 15 minutes late to everything.
That's a strategy, huh?
All right. So do we don't have a budget.
For planning.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
We do, it's the last
It was the
one.
last one.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, this-
small.
Yeah, planning board, yeah. It wasn't in my, I put my own packet together, and
Yeah.
actually I wouldn't have planning board in this.
It would be nice to see.
All set. I'm sorry. That's okay.
Hi there, how you doing?
Very well. Introduce yourself to the.
I'm Jean Vincent, I'm a member of the planning board, and we're actually having a meeting right now, so I was the one that was free to come over here real quick.
Through the short straw.
I needed my steps in today. Basically, our budget is okay, there's only one thing, and that's the line item for our admin person. And it's sort of been going on for years and years, like back to 2013 even, that the rate of pay has not been in line with everybody else or within the industry. We, in December, attempted to change it from administrative assistant to assistant planner, because she is that capable of doing it. When we were without a planner, the administrator was basically functioning as both until we got in our interim planner. And then when we finally settled down with our permanent planner. But she's very knowledgeable, and if you consider the years that she'd worked under the previous planner, who was also an instructor, teacher, professor, you can almost count that as like schooling. You know, he did trainer and everything. So in December, we wrote a letter to change her title and rate of pay, and then that started some letters back and forth, and we had a meeting with the myself, the employee, and a member of the select board with the town administrator to see what we could do to get this finally up to where it should be and everything. A few more delays happened as usual. And we had put in a request to change her position and the salary. And that didn't happen. It was supposed to be effective January 3rd of 2020. That didn't happen. We had sent the paperwork in for the weekly, you know, your timesheets and everything with the new rate. That got sent back. It said, no, the rate is this, not this. It's been an uphill battle. And what we're trying to do is just get it to a rate of pay that is comparable to her knowledge and skills and her duties, actually. We did do a whole new job description for the position. I don't think anything has happened with that yet, but.
Has that all gone through the HR department? I mean, is that?
Most of it, yes, it's gone through. Did you get copies on everything?
I haven't got copies of anything, I'm not, I know, I thought Lynn had said we needed the job description, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, we gave that in, okay.
So I know,
Well,
so
because
originally.
it's gotta be a procedure here, and I just wanna
So
make
I
sure
know
that.
originally when they had came, she was in the clerical union was still around, so we couldn't do anything because that position's in the clerical union.
But other positions in the clerical union have changed while they were in there, and people, okay, you never get out of the union.
Right.
But other people in the building have gotten their jobs changed where that rate of pay did not apply to them. And we were trying to go along that road, but then they said, no, you can't. And I know, I may not have it right with me, there is a job description, and
So normally what we say, so if we, here, I'll take it. We would need the job description, and then if it's changing, it's gotta go through Andrew and then the selectmen. So the selectmen would have to approve it.
Yeah.
And then it would get obviously put on the pay scale as to
Yeah.
wherever it fell.
Okay, all right. I'm just trying to understand that, because
Yeah.
this is not the first,
not the
department
first
to ask
time you
for
hear
help,
this.
okay?
Not the first time you hear this, right?
Right, and so whatever the procedure that I understand for this will also apply to the clerk's office and whatever.
Right, you're gonna hear the same story from a whole bunch of different people.
Yes, I'm sure, Gene.
This one is, and I trust that you, as the finance and everybody else, have planned for this. You knew it was coming. You probably didn't want to hear about it, and I totally agree with you, but you had to know it was coming. And there have been other changes. And one thing too is that there was something in there saying that the job had to be posted.
If it's a new job, that I would have to ask HR, that I'm not sure. If it's a new
Okay.
job, I would assume that it would have to get posted.
If it's just a new title for an existing person, that has happened in the past where jobs did not get posted. Their title has changed, and they have gotten a new title and new dollars.
It's a promotion
Yeah.
in that case, not a new job, not a new position, right?
Yeah, I'd have to double check with Lynn, because I know when I applied for finance, I had to apply, and there was other applicants that we've interviewed as well, because I know Krista was on the interview, so.
Oh, okay.
That would be HR, so I'd have to ask Lynn, but I'll
Okay.
make sure I give this to her in the morning.
Please, okay. And we were looking in the realm of, oh, that was the other thing. On your schedule, you're calling it fiscal year 2023, but yet you're using the schedule, the pay rates for 2022.
Correct, there's no there's no COLA increase yet, so if there's no COLA, the rates would stay the same, so 22's rates would become 23's rates. So there hasn't been any COLA adjustments yet.
I find that hard to work with.
What, projecting what next year?
Uh-huh. I mean, you're asking us what we're projecting our expenses, and yet we're trying to look at it realistically to give you realistic figures with a big unknown factor. What's the pay rate gonna be? I mean, how can you do your job? How can you do your job?
So any of the budgets you've seen don't have any COLAs in it yet, because the board hasn't voted on, no one's voted on COLAs yet. That's how it is every
And when
year.
is that typically done?
I think usually by the time I put a whole budget together, usually we have the COLA, so usually March.
All right, something is then wrong with the timing of this,
Yeah.
okay?
Absolutely.
COLA should be established sometime in November, December.
December latest.
Right.
When you're asking departments, okay?
Right.
Right, so,
Sorry, I didn't mean to open
No,
that
that's
can,
okay. No.
but,
no. And you know what, Gene, some of these questions are not gonna be pertaining specifically to you. They're just
Right.
because we're hitting
Yeah.
these on others, so.
I'm working
Absolutely.
with Andrew, so I know I have to go back and edit everyone's budget once we, I'm
Right,
working with Andrew
but-
trying to get an answer, but.
by the
Right.
same token, you're coming to the individual boards and individual departments saying, submit your budget,
Right.
which we want to be truthful and realistic. And how can you be realistic with the last year's pay?
Yeah. No, and I get that, because Ashley can do it, but I also know that Ashley has to update all this information,
Uh-huh.
line item by line item,
Absolutely.
until we buy this new software that you say will solve this. And
Oh, we
so,
have
so,
software?
Yeah, Andrew and I are working on it.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
great.
so the
all
first thing I
formulas
think
are
of,
shared.
okay, when you say that, you know, this is a problem for us, is all the work that has to be done in that department.
Right.
Okay? And if you're doing that, you're gonna need some more help, okay? You're gonna be hitting us for an assistant or something.
I have nowhere to put anybody.
No,
Get
but
the new
that-
office first, then the help.
Yes.
Or get the help first, then when you need the money.
Yeah.
Thank you though, Jean, for bringing that up. You're the first
Okay.
one that's just brought that up, that the COLA timeline doesn't work well with our
Correct,
budgeting
yeah.
system. Okay.
Because I think before we had that sunset clause, so we knew it was an average of whatever the unions were, that was voted, I think that ended 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm,
so.
okay.
Okay, I know at one point we did try to, the board, the planning board did vote on changing the admin's title, and we had a suggested figure for a wage, hourly wage, and that obviously got refused, so that's why we're back here.
Okay.
So anything you can do to help us,
Yeah.
and like I said, we did do the new job description. And the other thing, when you're following, you know, things that have to be done, I don't know if you call them rules, regulations, whatever they are, it refers to the personnel board, which is no longer.
So that's a.
So that's another part that's, you know, these are the things that I'm reading through and I'm saying, how do I go to the personnel board? They're not there. And I realize probably HR is taking over that role, at
So-
least I would think so.
So technically, we still have a personnel board, there's no one on it, but
Okay,
HR should be,
Yeah, should
with the
be
HR
taken.
bylaw that we established.
It makes
already,
sense,
yeah.
it makes sense.
I guess I've burdened you enough.
Well, no, you've enlightened us.
But we are
You've-
looking, you
You've at
know.
least enlightened us on some issues that we've got to deal with, and thank you for that.
This is when I'd rather be on the planning board than your committee. You know, but we're just trying to get our, I don't want to even call her an admin person anymore, she's considerably above that, back in line with what she should be making with her years of service, experience, expertise. Frank just asked me a question and I couldn't answer me. Talk to Jamie, she knows the answer, you know. But, anyhow,
All right, thank you very much, Jean.
much as you can give us, we will take every penny.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. You and every other department that's come before us.
Exactly.
Thank you, Jean. All right, so that wraps up all of our budget here.
5 minutes late,
All right, go enjoy your own meeting now.
I am.
Any thoughts on what we heard tonight? You got any observations they want to make? I will tell you, in the Dropbox, Ashley has put, I've labeled it version 5, okay? And the capital budget for part. You'll see one at the very end, it says V5, that's the latest version. It kind of looks like this, right? And what Ashley and I are doing now is we're going through, as John and I were doing before, hey, this can come out, this can go up, okay? But right now, I will tell you that the dollar request is 2.1 million, right? And on an average year, we get free cash for about 1.3 to 1.4, okay? So that's the number to keep in the back of your head when we look at these kinds of things. The other thing that I have not put in there yet, because I'm still working on it, but I may put it in the next day or two. So this is going to be department budgets version 1. And what I do is, I take these sheets, right, and I get rid of everything in between and just get the bottom line, right? And then I compare it to the year before and the year before that. And so far, with the ones that I've done, right, we're looking at a 6.8% increase from last year's budgets, right? And now I'm hearing that that doesn't include any COLAs. We could be looking at another 2 to 3%, maybe above that, if salaries are in fact, what, 60% of our.
I think if I did a 2%, I think it was about another 50,000, if I remember correctly.
Across all departments?
That was just non-contractual people, so it didn't include the clerk union, because they at the time weren't dissolved yet. So that's not, police just settled their contract, fires and negotiations, highways and so there's still other unions that haven't settled, so I don't have any of their rates or anything in there.
Right.
So actually, police's did include, because she knew when they did their budget, the chief and his assistant knew what the COLA adjustment was, so that's included, but any of the other budgets don't have any.
So we're already, if you say inflation is 6%, okay, we're already above inflation, right? And it tends to look like inflation may go more like 7, 8, 9 by the time we're done with all of this. So again, I bring this up as reference, all right, so that we all can keep in the back of our head, this is where we're headed. You'll also find now, Ashley put in both the Dudley Charlton school budget and the Bay Path budget. They both came in this week, so you'll find those in the budget folder in there. And they are on our next meeting,
Yes,
both
and
of those schools.
I will tell you, I just got a letter from Bay Path. They're asking for another 7,000 for this year's budget. So chapter 70 and chapter 71 monies came in lower, so our net minimum contribution should be higher. So they're asking for another 7,000 from us. I'm not putting it on for town meeting, because it would be their last payment for June. So I'm gonna have to come back for town meeting. We'll have to ask for another 7. That's for Bay Path.
Yeah. And one quick question, what is this white thing right here?
That is our Zoom camera for all the Zoom, so if you watch the selectmen's meeting, do you see like the panoramic view?
Yeah.
So that is for their meetings, that's how you see everybody. It's a
And I know
microphone
that, because
and a
all night
camera.
long, I've been looking around that thing, at whoever was sitting in
So
that
when
chair.
you're watching like the Zoom meetings, that's how you see, so it pans to, so you can see the whole table, and then it pans to whoever's talking out here, so it like zooms in on them.
Yeah.
It's pretty fancy.
And then the last file that Ashley put into the Dropbox folder was the revenue budget. Is that projected, or is that?
That's estimated currently to what the state figures, so that's, I think the governor's budget is the most current.
Yeah.
So that's what I have so far.
So that kind of gives us a feel for what we've got available to us.
Correct,
Okay.
plus or minus a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Everything.
I so obviously except for the prop 2.5's in there. What I've been working with the assessor, what her estimated new growth, that number is in there, it might flux a little bit. And then the state aid numbers are all from the what the governor budget has proposed so far, because that's the most current state budget, and then everything else is level funded. So I haven't looked at local receipts or anything, so that might be able to go up or down, because those were more COVID budgeted numbers, so I might be able to go a little bit higher, but that would be like our starting point.
And I don't remember that the W. Charlton capital budget was in there yet. Or was it at the
I
end,
don't
and
think
maybe I
it's-
just didn't get to it?
I don't know if
The
it's in
roof
there.
is-
I'll double check.
I know the roof is
Yeah.
a separate issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, I'll check to see what he had sent me. Like, I scanned the packet he had, because they, mailed it to me.
Right.
So I'll double check to see what we scanned the whole packet that we had, so.
Yeah. So, when we're looking at something like that roof, okay, which we'll go out to, we'll get a bond or something. We'll
Right.
borrow it, okay, we'll borrow, there's a new piece of equipment or something, like, there was something in there that I said, yeah, that's gonna be a borrow item.
For
I
the
forget what it
schools,
was.
or on,
Was it the police roof or something? Anyway, when those items are on a capital budget like this,
Mm-hmm.
you can't project in next year's budget what our interest and principal payments are yet, can you?
I have somewhat of an idea, yes.
Okay, but they're not really in our budget, per se, are they?
Not until we officially go out.
Right.
Correct.
Right, so again, when we look at all these different department budgets,
Correct.
there's a lot of play in this,
Yeah.
because those borrowing costs have gotta be incorporated.
So, for instance, the tanker truck that we borrowed for in November that was approved at town meeting, so obviously we haven't gone out to borrow, but that's in my debt schedule for this year.
Right.
So I have kind of an estimated,
Right, the
number
things we've
that's in
already
there,
approved, the
but
town's
nothing
already
going-
approved.
yes,
I'm
nothing.
looking at, and, I asked the question the other day, what items here might become warrant items
Mm-hmm.
versus waiting until October for the free cash,
Mm-hmm.
okay? If we move some of those items into town warrant and they have their own item and they get passed, okay, those things are gonna have to be added to the budget.
correct.
Okay, and so that's gonna increase, So again, I go back to, I'm looking at 6.87%, okay? It could be a 10% increase over last year's, right? And I just don't know, is new growth gonna cover that, okay?
It's
Right,
gonna be a while
yeah.
before it gets up and
Right,
running.
because, right, it's up
You know,
and running.
the cannabis didn't bring anything yet, right?
Last year we received about 150,000 in cannabis money, but they weren't open the full year, so I haven't seen a full year from them yet.
How about solar? Nothing.
No, I mean, she's gotten money, but it all flows through, so it's not separated. It all flows through personal property, and
Yeah,
so it's
right,
not, so
right.
my cannabis
So we don't know
excise
what
is separate.
Yeah, we don't know what the separation is.
Yeah, not off the top of my head, I'd have to run numbers with the
10%
assessor.
of the budget, those numbers are missing a zero. They need
Yeah,
like
right.
another zero to even compete with that, right?
Right.
Right. And unfortunately, I think some of what's happening is we've not taken care of some of the things that we should have taken care of over the last 10 years, okay?
Coming
And
back to
it's
bite
coming
us.
up to bite us in the butt,
Yeah.
right? And now it's all gonna come at the same time.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's
roofs,
lots of up and coming
Right,
asks.
and I hate to think of what the situation would be, and if we didn't have some of these bigger projects coming into town down the road,
Right.
okay? You're right, Keith, they're not gonna pay for it now.
Right,
okay? It's gonna
right.
take a while for those funds, but at least we can see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just, we gotta get to the end of the tunnel, okay, where the light is. It's the way I'm looking at it right now. Right? We're gonna have some hard decisions.
Right.
Yeah, we got a tough economy.
Huh?
We got a tough economy right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But I also heard, I started to watch the selectmen's meeting, so I know what's going on over there, and I know that they are against raising the taxes, right? I mean, that's all Bill kept saying, I'm not raising the tax, I'm not raising the tax. And how we're gonna do all of this without some increase, okay? I think Bill, I think you're dreaming a little bit, okay? We're gonna have to have some tax increase, I don't see how we're gonna do this without it, right? My belief is we've been undertaxing for years because of the structure and the way it was all set up going back to 2.5, okay? We gotta get caught up, But that's me, and thank goodness I'm not running from it. All right, is there anything else anybody wants to bring up? Any comments?
No, I only have one comment.
Yes.
Every single thing I copied all the reports at home.
Yeah.
I can't read any of them, they're all blurry,
Tiny.
and they're tiny. I mean, can you tell me you can read this?
No, I can't. But then again, I just had eye surgery in the last month,
Change your-
okay, so,
Your,
yeah, you're,
up to 150% or something.
yes, yes.
Change
That's
my
that's-
what?
And
Increase
your
your
printer
rule.
setting,
Yeah.
change
that's the
your,
setting.
I
your
think
ratio.
we might have it set so it prints, I like to see it on one page.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But I also have, I guess, I don't know.
I just can't read this. I was like, really? I just printed out all this paper, really? Okay.
All right, if there being nothing else, I'll,
Change it to 100.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion, I have a second, I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 I vote yes, it's unanimous. We are closed at 8.
Nope.
8 o'clock.
7:59.
7:59. Oh, that's gonna kill me. I'm gonna change that the next time I start a meeting again.